Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. We'd like to start the meeting. This is the Monday, August 6, 2018 City Council meeting of the City of West Hollywood. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I think I saw Ada Bloomstein here from Ed's Coffee Shop. Ada, are you here? Yes. Would you, Ada, come on up to the podium here and please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, okay?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ada. Ms. City Clerk, may we have the roll call, please?
Yes. Councilmember Horvath?
Here.
Councilmember Meister?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem D'Amico?
Yes.
Mayor Duran?
Here.
Councilmember Heilman is absent tonight. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Councilmember John Heilman is in Stockholm on his summer vacation, so we'll be proceeding with 4 council members. We had no closed session agenda this evening, which moves us to the approval of tonight's agenda. Staff, do you have any changes to the agenda this evening?
No, we do not.
All right. Any of my colleagues have any changes? Councilmember Horvath?
Mayor, we received a request from the chamber to give a little bit more time to consider item 5A. Typically, we honor such requests, but so I just wanted to raise it and see if we wanted to take a little more time for them to give input.
Councilmember Meister, I think that's your item. I think the chamber has asked for time to review this item and comment.
Yeah, I was wondering if we could go forward with it, and if there are questions after we discuss it, that we continue it.
Okay, we can at least go through it, and we may end up continuing it then.
Because I think I can clarify some things.
Okay, any other changes to the agenda? How about item 4A, the update on the green building ordinance? May we move that to consent? No.
I have questions.
All right. Councilmember Horvath?
Can we add item 5B to consent?
About 5B, the temporary housing staff. Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
All right. It seems we have consensus on that. We'll move item 5B to consent. Any other changes to the agenda? A motion to approve the agenda as amended is in order. Moved by Horvath, seconded by Meister. All those in favor indicate with an aye. Motion passes 4-0. The agenda is approved as amended. Adjournment motions. Are there any adjournment motions tonight? Councilmember Horvath, any?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I have quite a few tonight. First, I'd like to adjourn in memory of the one and only Rita Norton, who served as a member of our city's senior advisory board, as well as a longtime member of the West Hollywood Beverly Hills Democratic Club. She was best known for her work with the West Hollywood Library and for countless people who came to West Hollywood. She was the person who welcomed you with love and a warm smile, and she inspired a passion for reading in so many of us and cared for so many of us in the community, and she's left an indelible mark on the lives of all who knew and loved her. And we will miss her very much, and I know Marcy's here, and we extend our sincerest condolences to you on behalf of the whole city.
Thank you. Without objection.
I'd also like to adjourn in memory of Ms. Ricky Bloom. Ricky Bloom is the mother of West Hollywood State Assembly member Richard Bloom. And Richard described Ricky as strong, self-assured, and tough as nails. And she navigated life on her own terms with a ferocious tenacity and unbending devotion to her family, friends, and community. And for anyone who ever received a mailer from him, you always got that last piece of mail with him with a photo with his mother. They had a very close relationship, and she was 103 years old when she passed. So we will also adjourn in her memory.
Thank you. Without objection.
I'd like to adjourn in memory of David Zingerman, who was the president of the Russian Language Library Board of Directors and the Russian-Speaking Association of Engineers and Scientists. He was a scientist, engineer, painter, writer, and poet, and devoted a lot of his time to various projects within the Russian-speaking community and Russian Language Library. And in 2017, the Russian Advisory Board recognized him for his outstanding community service. So we adjourn in his memory.
Thank you. Without objection.
And finally, I'd like to adjourn in memory of Sophia Ma, who is the mother of Fiona Ma, a member of our California Board of Equalization and current candidate for state treasurer. Sophia was born in Swato, China. She played the piano and organ, taught Sunday school, and was a soprano singer. She earned a BA in Fine Arts from the City University of New York, and while balancing 2 young kids and a full-time job, she earned MS in Fine Arts Education in 1972 and taught art for 19 years at Schreiber High School in Port Washington, New York. She was a devoted wife, mother, and grandmother, and we extend our sincerest condolences to Fiona and her whole family. Thank you, Mayor.
Without objection. Councilmember Meister, any adjournments? No. Mayor Pro Tem D'Amico, any adjournments? Okay, I have one adjournment this evening. Janet Avery, A-V-E-R-Y. Janet Avery was the very first president of the first Orange County LGBT Pride Parade that happened back in 1988 when I was a young civil rights lawyer for the LGBT community. I was her attorney. Janet launched the first Pride Parade down in the county of Orange, which resulted in massive protests and police on horseback and baton that beat up protesters, counter-protesters. Everybody got beat up that day in Santa Ana. She opened the door for the Orange County LGBT community 30 years ago, and she passed away last week with deepest condolences to her and her wife. All right, I think that's it for adjournments tonight. Presentations, I think we have a couple. Councilmember Meister, would you like to go first?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. After 58 years of service, Ed Coffee Shop at 460 North Robertson Boulevard closed its doors this past Saturday. Ed's has been a breakfast and lunch spot and neighborhood favorite for many West Hollywood residents and businesses. Over the years, it has attracted celebrities such as Kim Kardashian, Alexander Skarsgård, Richard Chamberlain, and others. Ed's was opened in 1960 by Ed Bloomstein and his wife Sybil. At the time, they didn't expect the restaurant to stay open for longer than 5 years, but the restaurant was a success and became a West Hollywood institution. When Ed passed away in 1995, his daughter, Ada, took over the restaurant. Ada has been working in the restaurant since she was a teenager and continued her parents' business for over 25 years. Ed's Coffee Shop was one of the longest-running restaurants in the city of West Hollywood. Its success can be attributed to its great food at reasonable prices and, more importantly, to the beloved longtime owners and employees that made it truly special. Tonight, we would like to recognize Ada, her parents Ed and Sybil, and all the employees who over the years contributed to this wonderful neighborhood serving business. Ed's will definitely be missed. Ada, will you come on up? My colleagues.
I just want to say thank you very much, but more importantly, thank you to the community. You guys have been the ones that have supported us all the years. I just realized the other day that somebody asked me why we were different, and I think it's because I think my parents started it, and I hope I continued it. We were more of a little village inside a big city. I get the feeling that you'd find in a small town rather than in a big city. And I hope that we'd served you all well, and you guys had always done everything for us. So thank you very much. Thank you to the City Council.
Thank you, Ada, to you and your family and all the staff at EDS. We will miss having you. Next presentation, Councilmember Horvath.
Thank you, Mayor. When I first moved to West Hollywood, I was still a renter, still am now, but I moved into a place that didn't really have a secure mailbox, and so I had to find the nearest post office to get a P.O. box to make sure that my mail stayed safe. And I did that at the post office on Fairfax, and I have had a P.O. box there since 2007. And over the years, I have seen all kinds of interactions happen at that post office, and anyone who uses that post office knows what I mean. But the most consistent thing I've seen there is women, very strong women behind the counter who offer great service, even when they're not offered pleasant comments in return. People who continue to work hard in our community and show up every day and work hard for us in our community. And I decided that it was time to honor them. And in fact, I guess on July 1st was National Postal Workers Day. But today is actually Black Women's Pay Equality Day. And so I thought that was even more profound because the women who work at this post office deserve equality, respect, and most of all, our appreciation in our community. So I wanted to recognize them here tonight. I believe a few members of the 1125 North Fairfax Post Office are with us. Wendy Barrett is the lead clerk. Latia Yarbrough, Maria Mendez, Eve Douglas, Wanda Roberson, and Ozella Timmons. Any of you who are here tonight, please come forward. We would like to recognize you and thank you for your service in our community.
Congratulations to our postal women. We would never be accused of going postal on the community. Thank you for all your service. Okay, we will now move to public comment. We have allotted 20 minutes of the council meeting to hear general comments from the public about any item. You'll have up to 2 minutes allocated to you, and we'll take a second section of public comment later on in the council meeting. Please understand that the council is not allowed to respond directly to you on anything you have to say, but we will listen to whatever you wish to tell us. So first speaker is Marcy Norton, to be followed by Esther Baum. And Marcy, good luck. You have 2 minutes. I don't think you've done anything in 2 minutes. I've known Marcy a long time.
Good luck to us all. Hi, Marcy Norton, longtime resident of West Hollywood, and I know that many of you, all of you, were at the services for my mother yesterday, and so and many people watched it online and still can if they'd like to. But I just wanted to thank you all especially and the community at large for the remarkable, overwhelming tributes that you've paid to her this last week, and even more before that, as her health was fading. And so many of you have been so kind and so loving and so supportive to me while I was having to deal with all of it. And I just wanted you to know how much that really means. My mother, who, as we all know, at different times was referred to as the face of the West Hollywood Library, the venerated icon of the community, the little mother to the gay community. She played a number of roles here, and she loved all of them. She used to say that there was never a job on the face of this earth created that was more perfect match between the person and the job, and that was her 22 years at the library and then 18 running the Friends of the Library. And she made so many friends throughout the community and was there for so many people. And your tributes, including the flags at half-staff the other day, which I had to drive around town to make sure I saw all of them waving in the breeze. And unfortunately, the timing was such that Mayor Duran posted a wonderful, beautiful, loving tribute that came up on my cell as I was standing there looking at the flags. So we had this crying like a lunatic in the middle of the boulevard, in case any of you happen to have noticed it. But that's what it was all about. And so I just wanted to say that all of these loving tributes and everything you have done, the one person that we all know who would never have believed for a moment or understood why you did it was my mother, because she never thought that anything she was doing was all that special. It's the way you live your life, it's how you treat other people, and it's the way you do your job, and that was just her. And thank you all so much for appreciating her for all those years.
Thank you, Marcy. Thank you, Marcy. Our deep condolences to you and your family and friends on the loss of your mother, Esther Baum, to be followed by Ingrid Mueller on item 2Z.
Esther Baum, resident, West Hollywood. Rita Norton was a wonderful friend, a fun friend, and a great storyteller. And whenever she heard of anyone or any project that needed help, she always offered a helping hand, usually attached to Marcy's arm. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. Ingrid Mueller to be followed by Arlie Paz, both on item 2Z. Is there an Ingrid Mueller here? Ingrid Mueller? Is that you? Okay. Please state your name and city of residence.
Hello, my name is Ingrid Mueller, and I'm here because I'm absolutely very upset and very disappointed in the community that they want to take away Donald Trump's star. I find that appalling. It is terrible. He's the president of the United States, and he's doing a great job. The economy is doing well, and well, if you don't like him, well, that's your problem, but I'm here to please leave the star alone. He earned it. He deserved it when he got it, and there's the Trump haters who just want to destroy everything that is to do with him, and for the person to go there and destroy his star is absolutely disgusting, very rude. And when Obama was in office, I didn't particularly care for him, but I respected him. I respected him, and I would have never, ever have done anything to be disrespectful to him. And there are so many people, and they've done this before, where it was 2 years ago, where they completely destroyed his star as well. And there was a black lady, a very fine, homeless black lady that was protecting the star, and then some illegal aliens came over and beat her up, and it was this terrible, and President Trump ended up giving her money and helping this lady. So I am here to please, I know this wants they want to make a bill so Los Angeles removes the star, and I'm completely opposed it, and I am speaking here on behalf of many Trump supporters. I'm a Mexican for Trump, and I love President Trump, and there's lots of Trump supporters. I belong to Make California Great Again, and I'm the coalition leader for Mexicans and women, and a lot of them could not show up because it was last minute, I found out, and so I'm here to express my opinion. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you. If I may please ask you all for a favor. We need to respect one another's opinion, and it's rarely helpful to have people shouting out when somebody is trying to speak because it makes it difficult for all of us to hear. So I know currently that things somewhat seem uncivilized in our politics, but if we can just have an evening of maybe some civilized disagreement, it would be greatly appreciated. Okay? Arlie Paz, to be followed by Jason Frazier.
Hi, I live in Los Angeles, and I too am appalled about the attempts of trying to remove our President Trump's star. He earned it, it's there, it needs to be restored, it needs to be respected, and you know what? We need to be proud of what's happening in our country, be proud of that star. He needs a gold star because that's what he's earning, and we need to appreciate that. I am a Latina, I am an American patriot. I'm here for my country. I'm here for my president. 8 years of ignoring abomination, but I respected him. I never spoke against him because you know what? That would make our own country look bad. That's disloyalty, and I would never do that. I would never do that to a president. How are the other countries going to look at us? They're going to say their own people do not support their president? That's why I kept my mouth shut for 8 years. And you know what? Obama lovers or whoever they are thought they were going to get their 8 years, but guess what? It's our turn. It's our turn with Trump. 8 years of fixing what abomination did. And you know what? You want to remove stars? Start with all the pedophilia, Hollywood stars there. There's a lot of directors, producers being fired because of what they're doing. That's dirty. That's sick what they're doing. Let's wake up to the pedophilia. Those stars need to be removed. Pedophilia going on in Hollywood, let's wake up. Don't try to ignore it and close your eyes and try to override that by removing Trump's star. Let's be proud. We're proud Americans from all countries, from all immigrant backgrounds, but this is our country. Let's keep our Trump star. Let's be proud. Think, have some loyalty, have some patriotism. Look back to Lincoln and notice what Trump is doing. Wake up, walk away.
Thank you. Jason Frazier, to be followed by Rory Emerald.
Good evening. I'm here to speak on behalf of the co-sponsorship of the AMBI Bisexual Visibility event that will be happening. It's under your consent calendar. Bisexual Visibility Day is September 23rd and is intended to celebrate bisexual people all around the world. It's been going on since 1999. The passage of this item would mark the first time a city has recognized the bisexual community and co-sponsored a supporting event on Bisexual Visibility Day anywhere in the world. Another first for West Hollywood, who prides itself on being the creative city and welcoming to all LGBTQ citizens. We strive to be all-inclusive and support everyone, and we hope that this event will be the first of many to come to help bisexual people feel more welcome and included here in West Hollywood. And I speak on behalf of all the members of the Lesbian and Gay Advisory Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Rory Emerald, to be followed by Austin Michael Clay.
Hello, my name is Rory Emerald. I'm a resident of Beverly Hills in Hollywood. Just wanted to say hello. I respect everything that you guys do. Anyways, I just want to say that I'm urging you to remove Donald Trump's star. I'm a person who loves trees, all kinds of trees. I like trees in all the seasons, winter, summer, spring, fall. I'm a tree person. And Donald Trump is the cancer that kills trees. And I just urge you, I'm asking you to please remove his star. Businesses on the boulevard are losing business because of it. Tourists are afraid to go on the boulevard. I have many famous friends who have some stars on the boulevard, and they would like their stars removed, like they don't even want them on there. I know people who have stars that may be coming, and they don't even want to be on the boulevard connected to him. So anyways, thank you very much for hearing me. And like I said, I'm a lover of trees, and Donald Trump is the axe that destroys trees, that takes trees down, and Donald Trump is not a tree.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Pose, we allowed you to speak freely. Would you please allow others to speak freely? All right? Otherwise, I'll have to ask the sheriff deputies to remove you. So let's respect one another's opinion, even if we disagree, please. Austin Michael Clay, to be followed by Ivy Bottini.
Hello, my name's Austin Michael Clay, and you may know me as the man who actually destroyed Donald Trump's star. So, thank you. I would like to thank the Honorable Chamber of Commerce, the West Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, for allowing me to speak. I would like to thank Rory Emerald, the man who just spoke and who helped me orchestrate this whole thing. And I would like to thank Electra Emerald, who's coming up with me and who supported me through everything. To start off, I would like to talk about why the star should actually be removed. First of all, I believe that it's a threat to the public safety. With all the violence that's erupting over the star and its current condition, I could see somebody getting seriously hurt over the star. I think it's important that in politics we take a stand against those that we believe are fraudulent, those that we believe are liars, those that we believe are unethical, and I think that our President Donald Trump is unethical, fraudulent, and a liar. And I think that the West Hollywood Chamber of Commerce can really take a stand against him right now by removing the star. Also, I would like to preserve the integrity of the Walk of Fame as an honorable landmark for the American landscape. Not to mention that businesses are losing traction and that tourists aren't coming to the star due to all the controversy. The star had a definite negative energy both before and after I had committed vandalism. Before, you could see graffiti all over it. You could see that that people were fighting over, that people were spitting it, that people were littering. And after, you can see that people have thrown trash, that people are writing messages, that there's a cage around it that gives it a very militant look, that gives it a very negative look for the city of Hollywood. Donald Trump is somebody who is putting children in cages, who's removing them from their parents permanently, who's disrespectful to women, who is colluding with a foreign dictator, Vladimir Putin, who during his Helsinki conference spoke for 2 hours without anybody knowing what was going on.
Sir, your time is
He's
expired.
racist, he's a bigot. And I have seen in my dreams bombs over New York City. I've seen them over Los Angeles. And if we don't get the president out of office, bad things are going to happen. So I'm pleading with you. I am urging for you to remove the star. Thank you.
Thank you. Before Ivy speaks, I just want to tell everybody, the Hollywood Walk of Fame is in Los Angeles, not in West Hollywood, and the West Hollywood City Council has no jurisdiction over the Hollywood Walk of Fame or its stars. They are run by the Los Angeles Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. So we're here to hear your opinions, but there's no action that we can take, either affirmatively or negatively. We don't control the Walk of Fame. I just want to make that clarification. Maybe it'll get all the emotions to just calm down a bit. Okay? Ivy.
I'm experiencing the wonder of a perfect night in America. When you can say what you want and nobody's going to kill you. You're not going to get arrested, you're not going to go to jail. And it doesn't matter which side is speaking, but they have a right to speak. That's an amazing thing. And it's because we live in America. We live in a free country. This can happen. So glorify in the evening. Just glorify. That's where we live. That's who we are. That's what we have earned. That's why we are Americans. So calm down. In other words, shut up. And let's get on with America. Okay. I'll try to be brief. No, I will be. Again, it's about free speech. Mayor Duran and I, we've been tussling a little. And it felt kind of good, though, if you think about it. It's probably the most interaction we two have had in years. But it never would have happened. It never would have gotten out of hand about the keys to the city if this was being enforced, the code of conduct. It's supposed to be enforced. So I'm going to give it to Mr. Aravallo because he's the one that's supposed to enforce it. It all makes sense. It protects everybody. And I want to speak and say, add it to the task force that you're thinking of stopping. Don't stop it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivy. Steve Martin, to be followed by Greg Suzette.
Steve Martin, West Hollywood. Oh, our city manager's getting younger and handsomer all the time. Anyway, Ivy, I want to thank you for coming out and speaking, and I think it's really important that we do talk about our code of conduct. I think Ivy was really put upon last time simply because she disagreed with the Stormy Daniels key to the city issue, and she really was embarrassed and suffered by it. I don't think that was fair, and I don't think she got an apology that was an actual apology. Matter of fact, Mayor didn't talk much about Ivy, mostly talked about himself, sort of about an all about me apology. Anyway, on this more pressing, immediate issue, I want to thank the city for taking a stand on the Hollywood Star. You know, however you voted, most Americans voted against Donald Trump. And no matter what star he has, he keeps on going out of his way to tarnish it. Nothing that you and I do can make it worse than what it is. I don't think we have ever experienced, not in my lifetime, not in my grandparents' lifetime, a president who has gone out of his way to alienate so many people, to divide us rather than unite us, to betray our enemies, to even betray the country. And I understand why people act out, and I understand why people commit acts of nonviolent protest. And to a certain degree, they should be commended. But we all need to come together, but we need to come together under some new leadership that is not toxic. And it's so easy to take pot shots at this president, but I really think we should keep our eye on the ball on the real issues that impact our community and the things that he does to hurt us. And it just seems like every morning when he gets up, he finds a way to hurt America and divide America. So that's why I'm very proud of the fact that you guys are taking this stand. So thank you.
Thank you. Greg Suzette, to be followed by James Wen.
Hi, my name is Greg Suska. I think it's appalling to attack any star, much less the president's star. An attack on one star is an attack on all the stars. Can all the people who have stars hold up to the same standards you're holding Donald Trump up to? I think not. Also, the standards that you all hold him up to, I wonder if you all know that Donald Trump in 1989 got an Ellis Island Award. Ellis Island, you know, give me all your hungry, your poor, the whatevers. Ellis Island Award is given for 4 categories. 1, patriotism. Well, we can all agree the president's got a lot of that. Number 2 is brotherhood. Brotherhood to fellow man. And he got the award for his work in inner city schools. I hope you all get educated this morning, because none of you here ever, and wait for the last reason they give you the Ellis Island Award is, wait for it, diversity. So this man, you want to remove his star, got an award for patriotism in 1989. Which one of you up here even reached that standard? None of you. Google it. And then respect my president and respect his star.
Thank you, James Wen, to be followed by Lynn, et cetera. Council, it looks like we have about 9 other speakers. I'm just going to go ahead and barrel through if you're okay with that. All right. James Wen, to be followed by, Lynn, et cetera.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is James Wen. I do serve on the Transgender Advisory Board. However, this evening I am representing myself. I want to start by saying that in the memo that was presented along with this item, to me the last sentence is the most important, asking the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce to review how it determines its awardees, and to also look into the future about the existing stars. With that said, I am going to just address the transgender community. I don't think that I've ever felt as rolled up in listening to the 2 sides. My greatest concern is that stars in the military are awarded to great leaders, great generals. This is our commander-in-chief. And when a commander-in-chief, when a general is not becoming of their position, they are either asked to resign or a star is removed. And it is time to have this star removed. Where I think we can all agree is that when President Trump removed by tweet transgender people from serving, he in fact took away a safety net of additional people serving alongside non-transgender people. In doing so, he affected our national security. By doing that, that is not becoming of a commander-in-chief. And I hope that our national security for all of us, that's something that we can unite on. Thank you.
Thank you. Lynn, et cetera, to be followed by Linda Culpepper. No, excuse me. We do not speak to members of the transgender community with such horrible remarks. It was horrible. It's freedom of speech, and now I'm exercising mine. Transgendered people have full equality in this city and in the state of California. Thank you very much. Lynn, et cetera, to be followed by Linda Culpepper.
Lynn, et cetera, West Hollywood. I was surprised and ecstatic when I received this notice a while ago. Due to West Hollywood's decline in voting, the state had decreed that West Hollywood elections were to be changed to coincide with the presidential in 2020 for Heilman and Duran, and after Lindsay, Lauren, and D'Amico are reelected in March of 2019, to be voted on in the gubernatorial election in 2020. I was also ecstatic when Measure C term limits passed. After 10 years of incompetence, the John Stewart Management Company has been let go from West Hollywood Community Housing, future homeless housing notwithstanding. I am very happy and thank the council members with my heart and soul. Thank you, thank you. On to other real news. Today in New York, the order of appearance for the Democratic primary for governor was decided by lottery, and Cynthia Nixon won with top of the list. Yeah, Cynthia. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Linda Culpepper, to be followed by Sion Leong.
I'll be speaking from my heart because I really haven't prepared anything. But I will, yes, I haven't really prepared anything, but I'll speak from my heart. I was not an original Trump supporter. I love my country. I am conservative, but I thought Trump was a little out there for me to start with. I didn't particularly like his mannerisms, the way he talked. But I had some very good friends who kept saying, you know, Linda, he's really not that. He's having to do this to win. And then when he won the nomination, I thought, okay, you're going to have to earn my vote, because I didn't like the way you talked to Ted Cruz. I didn't like the way you talked to little Rubio, little Marco. But, and during the debates, one-on-one with Hillary Clinton, he won my respect and he won my vote, because I, as a citizen, have researched enough to know what's out there. It's not just the social issues. It's not just the whatever. And by the way, Republicans have gotten a horrible rap. We are not who you think we are. In fact, I first heard Tammy Bruce say that on C-SPAN years ago, a lesbian who started now. She was telling the people at the university, even the right is not who you think they are. And I can validate that. I love transgenders. I love gays. My boss, former boss, gay, married to his partner. There is, you know, it's just not what people think. As I listened, as I have given, by the way, I saw Trump, he won me over there, because I do think there have been major crimes committed in our country that for some reason Democrats choose to remain blind about. This is bigger than party. This is the welfare of our country. And so not only was my time up?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, no. Okay, but anyway, I think it's premature. Brandon Straka, Straka, has just recently, he's a gay hairdresser in New York. He has just recently formed a movement called Walk Away. And this is premature to do away with a star, because people are going to start seeing who Trump really is. And he's not who you're talking, not who you think he is.
And Ms. Culpepper, if you want to meet one of the founders of NOW, she's in the first row, Ivy Bottini. I don't think Tammy Bruce was there. Sean Leong, to be followed by Jason Simpson. Is there a Sean Leong here?
Yes, hello. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. Thank you for our public comment. This is a group of our neighbors. We're here to talk about 431 La Cienega Boulevard, the proposed project there. We thank you for your continuing attention to our concerns regarding the proposed project of 431 La Cienega Boulevard, LA City, which directly abuts our West Hollywood West neighborhood's single-story homes on Westmount Drive. We thank you for the mayor's 2 letters to the LA City Council member, Mr. Paul Koretz, and to your staff for arranging the meeting between the developer and our group last Monday, and for the West Hollywood Special Attorney and Senior Planner's attendance. Our group at that meeting made a number of what we believe were reasonable suggestions on how to mitigate our concerns regarding the massing against our neighborhood, something that could not be happening in LA if we were in LA. The developer came back on Saturday, and it is the consensus opinion of our group that the plan provided over the weekend does not represent a constructive engagement of the issues raised at our meeting last week. At the present, we feel there isn't anything to talk about, so we declined to meet with them again today. However, notwithstanding, we would like to reiterate our hopes that in the very near future, negotiations may occur based on good faith by both sides and with a mutual and genuine intent to reach an amicable agreement that will allow the project to move forward while addressing the massing concerns at the west elevation of the building raised by our group and therefore well known by the developer, Mr. Stark, and his consultants. We thank you again for your attention to this matter, the Westmount Drive 400 block group and wider West Hollywood neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tom DeMille, to be followed by Lee Walkup.
My name is Tom DeMille, City of West Hollywood. Maybe the cameras want a little news bite here, a sound bite. All I've heard was hate tonight. Really, it makes me want to throw up. We got one guy here that says the star is causing conflict. So he decides to take a pickaxe and walk down the street. And then we have a woman here who says Obama lovers. Is that a code word for a racial slur? When does it stop? When does it stop? I mean, as a little boy, I remember, if you don't like Gariello, Sal Gariello, because he's Italian, do you blow up our fountain? You better not. You better not to touch anything. That's destruction of property. It's hate. What you have going here is hate. It's more hate. Why don't I invite the President of the United States, Donald Trump, to West Hollywood so we can talk to him about these issues, to talk to him about the transgender issues, the people that aren't getting a fair shake. Let's sit and talk with them. Why are we putting more rivers and things between us? When are you going to be happy with Donald Trump? When he's dead? When are you going to be happy with Barack Obama? When he's dead? How many dead presidents do you want before you have someone that can lead this country and people will understand to respect the office of the President of the United States? How many dead presidents do you want? Do you want to just elect them every 4 years and then have half the country want him dead or her dead? Is that the way you want to live? It's not the way I want to live.
Lee Walkup, to be followed by Ann Goldman.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, my name is Lee Walkup. I'm a resident of the city of West Hollywood. To further follow up with a kind comment yesterday from a council member, D'Amico, yes, the drug dealers in our building are gone, but they're still in the neighborhood. They're even next door. They're even 2 doors away in a vacant building that's been broken into and the glass shattered in the upstairs windows. Joining Council Member Heilman in his recent comments regarding Uber and Lyft and other bandit taxi services, I have found them to be deliberately blocking the single-lane driveway at my residence, deliberately dangerous, inconsiderate, and rude at local business, and generally blocking the roadway as they stop and wait everywhere for their clients. In the case of my residence, I recently returned home to find a bandit Uber vehicle parked in the entrance to our subterranean garage. I remotely opened the garage security gate towards the vehicle. The garage gate fully opened. Nothing happened with the car that was parked there. When I sounded my horn, he stepped from his vehicle and said, "I'm working here." I replied, "I don't care if you never work again. I want access to our garage." He eventually backed up, forcing me to get out of the driveway so he could leave. The next event was an Uber bandit cab operator that drove out of control, past the parking attendant at Trader Joe's on the boulevard, parked, ran in the exit, came out through the entrance with one item and sat in his car until security and the parking attendant took him away. Another event in regard to my driveway occurred just a few days ago. As I entered and went in and the garage gate closed, an Uber driver backed into my driveway and sat there, turned the car off, put on the hazard lights, and that was over. He moved because I suddenly realized I had another errand to do, and I wanted back out of my garage.
Thank you, Lee. We have 4 more speakers. Ann Goldman, to be followed by Renee Sotil and MJ Godges. Ann?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council members. I am a 29-year resident of West Hollywood in the same building all this time, deeply proud to be part of this incredibly progressive community whose rights I've supported the whole time I'm here. However, I need you to support my rights now. I am a retired elementary school teacher who has taught in the inner city of LAUSD and here in West Hollywood for 26 years, both as an elementary teacher and as an arts administrator downtown. I have sleep apnea and asthma. My building is supposed to be non-smoking, and yet for over 2.5 years, the tenants below me have been permitted to smoke marijuana and to have excessive noise, including rock and roll, live electric guitar, from early in the morning through the late night. Saturday at 3 a.m., I woke up, I thought my sleep apnea machine, I was breathing marijuana. It was my sleep apnea tube that had been permeated from marijuana smoke from the tenant below all day. It wasn't in the room. He turned my sleep apnea machine into a hookah. My building owners won't do anything about it. They don't even respond to my emails. It's supposed to be non-smoking. He violates my rights. This is the second tenant in a row. The previous tenant was finally evicted after Steve Martin intervened. My car, by the way, has been vandalized 3 times since that tenant left the building. We haven't got pictures of her yet, but still the owners refuse to put in security cameras. I have been to WeHo dozens of times, rent stabilization, ordinance. I've talked with everybody on staff. I've put in calls to many of you. For the first time in 2.5 years last Tuesday, I had a council member who took my call, and that was John D'Amico, and I thank you so much. He gave me concrete steps. Here's what we need. We need an ombudsman to guide people through this process. We need enforcement of laws, not ordinances, because the police don't protect ordinances. Marijuana smoke is more dangerous than tobacco. It shuts down our lungs. The particles are bigger, they're covered with oils. Nice that you all legalized it, but what about the rest of us whose lungs need protection? Please move forward on protecting us too.
Thank you, Ms. Goldman. Renee Sotil and MJ Godges, to be followed by Karen O'Keefe, to be followed by Larry Block, who's our final speaker.
Hi guys, good evening. We're here to give an update on our project, I Remember Nicole. I Remember Nicole, a global anthem reclaiming power over intimate partner violence as a call to action through song. With the city's sponsorship, we were able to finish the official music video, and it showcases all women while also representing the camaraderie and power that happens when social activist groups align and mobilize. The music video also highlights West Hollywood with shots from the West Hollywood Park, the Design Center, Sal Guariali's Veterans Memorial, Santa Monica Boulevard, and also WeHo sheriffs and citizens. The mission of I Remember Nicole is to empower women, to give hope, and provide direction to those in need. I Remember Nicole is a galvanizing song that raises awareness and creates a voice above the silence of violence. I Remember Nicole was inspired by Nicole Brown Simpson. We have the support of the family, the Brown family, and her sister is on board to introduce the song at the events. Next year marks the 25th anniversary of Nicole's death. She was murdered just 7 miles west of West Hollywood. National media coverage of the unresolved murders of Nicole and Ronald Goldman will begin in January 2019. This leads us to tonight. Over the year, we have reached out to council members about partnering with us to effectively use I Remember Nicole in a number of ways. Most recently, we met with council member Lindsay Horvath and made a plan to utilize I Remember Nicole this October during Domestic Violence Month. We appreciate this first step and ask the city to continue the momentum by featuring I Remember Nicole at additional West Hollywood sponsored events and to truly honor victims by remembering Nicole Brown Simpson on the anniversary of her murder next June. Together, we can be the driving force to keep the Nicoles in the news spotlight instead of just the OJs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Karen O'Keefe, to be followed by Larry Block.
Good evening. I actually came here to speak about bikes. I'm Karen O'Keefe from West Hollywood, and I'm here in my capacity as a member of the West Hollywood Bicycle Coalition. As you might have seen, Beverly Hills has started striping some green bike lanes, which our city spoke out in support of. Thank you. And once the gap before and after the bike lane have been filled in LA and West Hollywood, we'll be able to bike on bike lanes all the way from Kings Road to the ocean. I listened with interest to the scooter debate in July, and Councilmember Meister said, I don't think West Hollywood has the infrastructure for scooters and at this time, and I challenged the staff to look into building that infrastructure. We would love to have more infrastructure, specifically on Santa Monica, where there are so many destinations and where we have such narrow sidewalks on the east side of the city. We really need bike/scooter lanes so that we have an option that are not single-passenger vehicles, which are contributing so much to climate change. Now, I cannot help but, in my private capacity completely, also comment on the issue that so many people have commented on. I hope that the city will resolve, I know you have no power on it, but resolve to urge the Chamber of Commerce in Hollywood to remove Donald Trump's star. I know so many people that have been personally harmed by the hate that is spewed by him, people with disabilities, women. He bragged about sexually assaulting a woman on video and a recording. People who are Muslims who have been demonized, people who are immigrants who have been demonized. Every time someone walks past that star, it is a slap in the face. And it's interesting to hear from the crowd speaking, talking about crimes. How many people in Trump's administration have been indicted and pled guilty so far? We might have a offense against democracy itself, against the integrity of our election process. And I would love to love my president and the values that our country holds dear, but I can't love both at the same time, and I'm going to choose humanity and justice over one man.
Thank you. Larry Block.
Larry Block, West Hollywood. Hello, everybody. The first thing I'd like to do is let every resident know how lucky we are to live in West Hollywood. It's such an honor to be at Rita Norton's service yesterday and see the whole quorum of the city council at Rita's service. We could have had this meeting yesterday and avoided all this drama. And the city staff, who gives of their own time on a Sunday afternoon to go out to a funeral for a woman that they love, that they worked with over the course of time. And that's just a credit to our small city. I'm going to miss Ada and Ed's Coffee Shop as a community-serving business, and I've hesitated from coming up here for many months because I was in my own lease negotiations to be my own community-serving business. And yesterday, a number of people, Stephen Davis, this one's for you, asking, when am I opening up at the Circus of Books? I'm not. I don't know who has heard the news, but the block party will continue in West Hollywood till 2023 or 2026, and we're going to continue to sell our Donald Trump toilet paper, rolls and rolls and rolls, and you can come in and get your troll Donald Trump doll or your shithole president t-shirt, because we're all about this community, and the reason it is we need to make America good again, and that's what happened with America. And so the people are so disrespectful because he's so disrespectful to people. And that's why we have this. If he would show some respect for Americans, we would be able to respect him and support him. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. That concludes public comment for the evening. Okay, quiet. Order, please. We've got government business to do. Thank you. Council colleagues who'd like to begin. Councilmember Meister, you want to start tonight?
Okay. So I did attend the West Side City's COG regular board meeting, but not as a representative. But I'll talk about it since Councilmember Heilman's not here. The COG discussed submitting a letter to support, a letter of support regarding the northern extension that included the COG's unanimous sentiment that accelerating the line should not result in higher costs for WeHo. Doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen, but at least the COG is behind us. The COG also talked about electric scooters and what the various cities were doing about that. I also want to extend my condolences to Marcy regarding Rita, and she will be missed. Regarding the consent calendar, item 2G, which is the Metro's feasibility and alternatives analysis for the northern extension. I'm looking forward to a robust discussion of the full report when it comes back to council. I just want to make sure that we reach out to the neighborhoods that would be directly impacted by each of the alignments. On item 2J, agreement with FM3 for polling related to the potential cannabis tax. I would like to make sure that we include in the scope that we get crosstabs, unweighted and weighted if applicable. I also want to make sure that we don't only ask about using tax money for rail, but also for seismic retrofit. Item 2W, the resolutions related to the California initiatives. I would like staff to take a look at Proposition 5 and Proposition 12. 5 is about the transfer property tax assessments, and Prop 12 is about the size of cages and the sale of meat. So I would like that to come back to us to see if we want to take a position on either of those. And those are my, I think those are all my comments. Let me just see if I had anything on 5B. No. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Horvath.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I just want to ask of the city attorney, I think you're planning to do this, to share a little bit about the housing bill updates with us and how they're being implemented here in West Hollywood, so we can get an update on that. And also, if you could also let us know how the council will be constituted at our next meeting for the seismic retrofitting hearing. People are very interested in knowing who's going to be making that decision. I know that that was a question at the Rent Stabilization Commission, if you could speak to that. I wanted to disclose that I met with Peter and Trent from TGS on August 1st regarding their cannabis business application. We discussed possible locations, the timeline for the decision-making, and community involvement. And finally, I want to thank everyone who contacted us about item 2Z and everyone who spoke tonight and participated in the discussion. I particularly appreciate Mark Hamill's support. I'm glad to know that the force is with us tonight. It looks like my colleagues will be supporting this item as well. And I think it's a proud thing for our community to take a stance in this way, as we have done in so many other ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to start also by extending my condolences to Marcy. You and Rita and Rita are amazing people, and she was so important, and we look forward to you having a new life on your own, taking care of yourself, being in the world, and we're all here to help as much as we can. I wanted to mention that I took no donations from anyone with any items on tonight's agenda. I also wanted to talk about item 2G, which is the Metro item. It's a receive and file for the feasibility of the alternatives, but I want to leave a challenge to our Chamber of Commerce that when we do have this discussion, that we don't receive an email at 3:45 on the day we're supposed to decide, telling us we need they need more input and more time. This is your time, so please work with the local businesses, find out which route is preferred by our local business community, and if we can help, if I can help, we're here to do it. But in order for this to be a smooth process, I think we need to have your engagement 100% now, so that when it's time for us to make a decision, you're here for it, and we can get that information. I wanted to talk about item 2W, which is related to the initiatives, and I have to say I'm kind of disappointed that this is coming from one council member and not from our community and legislative affairs staff. I thought we had put together a plan by this month to have a policy staff in place and to be making recommendations, because I think these are in some ways one-sided recommendations. They may represent this council member's point of view, but I don't think they're all-encompassing from a city's point of view, and so I'm happy to vote for this, but I am interested in a more thoroughgoing review by our policy staff and a staff item from our policy staff in the future, and not from an individual council member. Finally, I also wanted to talk about item 2Z, and I want to say the same thing as I begin to talk about it and the same thing when I finish, and that is that sometimes a little nudge is all it takes. And after seeing the damage to the star on TV, which I do not support, of course I don't support damaging public property, but it seemed to me that time is really up on Donald Trump's getting a star on Hollywood Boulevard. Getting a star is a privilege. It's not a right. You have no right to a star on Hollywood just because you're famous. And I think the message that national monument, as the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce calls it, needs to be looked at carefully and thoughtfully. And so I put this on the agenda and asked my colleague to join me, and it appears will pass, to ask the city of Los Angeles to step back and think carefully about who is represented on that boulevard and who might be represented in the future, and what processes are in place for representation there. As Councilmember Horvath said, Mark Hamill joined the call today, and he was my 12-year-old hero, and the force is with us, perhaps. So I just want to say, sometimes a little nudge is all it takes, and thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. A couple of housekeeping items. The parking validation machine is not working, but there are pre-punched validation tickets in the back of the room if anybody needs validated parking to exit the parking structure. And Marcy asked me to remind everybody that there are desserts in the lobby provided by Rita Norton's family and friends in celebration of her life. So if anybody wants to grab some dessert, it's in the back out in the foyer. Thank you, Marcy, for bringing that. I think my colleagues have said pretty much everything that's been said, and it looks like the pro-Trump and the anti-Trump crowd have both vacated the room now. Okay, maybe one or two left, but this seems to be very typical in terms of what happens around the discussion regarding Donald Trump. A whole lot of heat, very little light. But I do support my colleagues in asking the chamber in Hollywood to not replace the star. I think that, as was stated by others tonight, earning a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame is a great honor. And it is not because of his conservative politics or his conservative policies. It is for the abuse of women, minorities, immigrants, the disabled. Once you start to tread into the territory of abusing the citizens of the United States and those who choose to live here, you've crossed a line of decency. And unfortunately, some of the comments made by the Trump supporters tonight are a reflection of that anger and angst and divisiveness. And if anyone ever needed to solidify my vote on this, the Trump supporters who showed up tonight and the way in which they handled themselves pretty much solidify that what we're doing is right. So with that, those are all the comments I have. Our city manager is on vacation in Hawaii, I think, so our assistant city manager, David Wilson, is here tonight. David, do you have a report?
Yes, just a few comments, and I'll turn it over to our city attorney to talk about the housing bills and the seismic discussion. Tomorrow's National Night Out. On the city's website, there's a complete list of all the events and information on street closures. You can find that at www.weho.org/NNO. For those of you here tonight, you can also see our Community Affairs Liaison, Jasmine Duckworth, who's in the back of the chambers. Beginning tomorrow, we will start installation of the Smart Cities public safety cameras along Santa Monica Boulevard. Those will begin at Fairfax, La Brea, Robertson, San Vicente, and La Cienega. We have 2 lighting retrofitting projects to improve energy efficiency at city parking garages. Work is currently being done at Kings Road Parking Garage, and then we'll be starting the 5-story parking garage right here behind the council chambers on the 13th. Impacts will be minimal, but there may be some delays at the garages while the work is being completed. And then based on constituent concerns, our engineering division will be conducting field evaluations this week to determine if improvements are needed at several areas. This is look to see if there's a need for a crosswalk on Fuller near the Smart and Final and the Trader Joe's. And then if there's the additional stoplight signs at Detroit and Formosa roundabouts. And then if there's excessive backups going southbound on San Vicente as a result of the new restrictions at Rosewood. And that's all, and then I'll turn it over.
All right, Ms. Langer, City Attorney.
Okay. As you may recall, there was a slew of housing bills adopted by the state legislature last year, effective in January, and I've just been asked to give a quick update for the council and for the public on where the city stands on implementing all of those bills. I'll start with a ZTA that is working through the system. The planning staff has put together a comprehensive zone text amendment to implement many of those bills, and I'll go through them real quickly. AB 2442, which provides density bonuses for projects for foster youth, disabled veterans, and the homeless. AB 2501, which had procedures and timelines for processing density bonus applications. AB 2222, which is a slightly older bill and was followed up by AB 2556 recently, which includes replacement requirements for rent-stabilized units that are demolished for new development. AB 1934, which is a new bill that allows commercial development bonuses allowed when commercial developers partner with affordable housing developers. And lastly, AB 1505, which reversed the Palmer decision, which allowed the city to require developers of more than 10 units to provide on-site affordable housing. All of those bills have been packaged together as one zone text amendment. The Planning Commission considered that text amendment at 2 hearings, one in March and one in July, and recommended approval, and it will come before this body on October 1st for a public hearing. So there'll be a full discussion on all of those bills at that hearing. The second grouping of bills that I can mention is AB 678, SB 167, and AB 1515, which made amendments to the Housing Accountability Act. I'm currently working with planning staff. I know the City Council had asked for an update on how that bill is being implemented to both the Council, the Planning Commission, and staff, so that will be forthcoming. Planning staff is in the middle of surveying other cities to see how they're implementing some of the notice requirements, and there were some new findings that were incorporated into state law if the city were to reduce density of a project or to deny certain residential projects. So a full update and an agenda item will come forward to you with the details of how we can implement that bill, or those 3 bills. And then lastly, SB 35 included some streamlining processing requirements for certain residential and affordable housing projects. And we received a report at the very end of July from HCD that West Hollywood was one of only 14 cities in the state that had actually met its RHNA numbers. And if you've met your RHNA numbers, the city's not subject to those streamlining requirements. So for now, those are not part of the zone text amendments that are being processed through, but as the RHNA numbers reset every couple of years, we'll keep out and
and watch out for that. So most of these items will be coming back to you at later dates for more detailed discussion. With respect to the seismic retrofit ordinance, we have been, and which council members will be able to participate, we have been carefully reviewing the FPPC regulations, and we've been updating our analysis based on some more recent and more reliable numbers as to how many buildings that ordinance will be subject to, and so we anticipate having an answer very soon, hopefully within the next week.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for the city attorney, city manager?
You said you were reviewing the FPPC regulations, the Fair Political Practices, and what does that have to do with the seismic retrofit?
Lindsay and I are tenants.
To find out whether certain council members can participate and vote on the ordinance if they live in rental buildings.
Thank you. Okay.
Sorry, we were speaking kind of insider there.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Ms. Langer. All right. So we'll now move to the consent calendar. The consent calendar is a motion that's made to pass numerous motions under one general motion. Ms. City Clerk, may we have a report on the fiscal impact on tonight's consent calendar?
Yes, the fiscal impact on tonight with the addition of item 5B is $298,200 in expenditures, $35,000 in potential revenue, and $7,874 in waived fees.
All right. It's been moved by Councilmember Horvath, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem D'Amico. All those in favor indicate with an aye. Consent calendar passes unanimously, including the resolution asking the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce to remove the star to Donald Trump. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, that moves us to item number 4A, which is an update on the green. Oh, anybody need a break, or can we just keep going? Do you need a break? Keep going? Okay, we'll keep going. Update on the green building program preliminary framework, and who's presenting tonight? All right.
Greetings, Council. My name is Robin Eason. I'm the Senior Sustainability Planner. I'm joined here by Walker Wells. He is the Executive Director of Global Green and our lead consultant for this project. We'll give a brief presentation and then open it up. So the staff report that we provided for Council is really a progress report on the green building program update. We started the project in March, and when we kicked it off with the consultant team, we had some grounding questions that we wanted to consider throughout this process. Really, sort of how do we remain a leadership city in green building, given that the state has addressed green building itself since 2010. And so some of the things we were thinking about was, does a point-based system still make sense? Should LEED still play a role in our requirements? And is modifying the state code with some local amendments the best path forward? And so for task one of the things we had the consultant team do was a comparative analysis between our program, the state code, Cal Green, and LEED, just to see how they compare or contrast with each other. Some of the findings from that was really that they all kind of complement each other, and that they addressed many of the same topics, maybe with different thresholds, so on and so forth. So it gave us some grounding presence as to basically confirming that a lot of what the state code addresses is already, or a lot of what the state code addresses is already represented in our local green building code, and that maybe some of the local characteristic stuff can remain in our zoning code. So for task two, we did some stakeholder engagement. We had two stakeholder groups, a city stakeholder group and a community stakeholder group. City was made up of different departments. Community stakeholders had expertise like architecture, real estate development, energy consulting, and so on. You can see at the bottom of this slide, there were some major themes that were discussed: water management, energy, local characteristics, taking advantage of our topography, natural wind currents, east-west orientation for solar, and really trying to get feedback from these groups as to what is working with our current program and what is not, and how do we go about maybe improving that. So for these next slides, I'll turn it over to Walker Wells to walk us through a preferred framework.
Okay. Good evening, council members. So my task here is to just walk through kind of what we've arrived at so far for the preliminary framework. So we presented a couple of options at our last stakeholder meeting, which included revising the points program, acknowledging that many of the items that are in the current points program are addressed by the state Cal Green Code. So maybe the points strategy that we came up with 10 years ago isn't necessarily the best approach. We also talked about just defaulting to a third-party rating system like LEED or Living Building Challenge, and that was seen as not being contextual enough and sort of West Hollywood specific enough. So this is what we arrived at, is for this preliminary framework, to look at some local code amendments that could augment what the state already has in place or address West Hollywood specific issues, to incentivize high performance or innovation, and also to have a more robust verification process. So we heard from several folks that, well, the green things are in the plans, but they're not necessarily in the building. So we need to really look at the permitting as well as the inspection process. And then you can see the goals here is just to provide greater clarity on what's required, align the state and local codes, more guarantees that the green standards actually get manifest in the buildings if the language is in your building code, and increased efficiency for applicants just going through the process. We also talked about incentives that could be provided for projects that would go beyond the code baseline. So LEED Platinum, Living Building Challenge, doing something else extraordinary. And you can see the list that's down there from reducing fees, providing flexibility in how some codes are interpreted. The open space requirements came up quite a bit. Reductions in required parking, case-by-case consideration, say by the community development director. We didn't spend a whole lot of time revisiting any of the incentives related to floor area or unit density. Those were previous incentives that had been taken out of the green building ordinance several months before we got started, but we can recognize that those are the most powerful incentives you have. Nonetheless, we looked at these other ones to see how they might serve as a way to encourage people to go the extra mile. And then this is just a little bit more detail on this preliminary framework. So I'm just going to talk to the left-hand column, but there's some specifics on the right-hand column about what these things might mean. Starting in really 2020, all low-rise residential buildings will need to be net zero energy. So they'll need to be very energy efficient and have solar panels on their roofs to offset that energy use. So that's coming from the state. Some of the local amendments that we looked at to ensure that there is high levels of energy efficiency, including verifying the building envelope, lighting, looking at preparing buildings to have battery storage. There's lots of discussion about solar plus storage, but the code standards for batteries are still a bit of a work in progress. Other local code amendments to increase vegetation or just green space or manage water came up, things like green roofs, encouraging people to actually leave an area of real soil that you could put trees and absorb water into. Lots of discussion about dual plumbing for gray water, acknowledging it's silly to take water from Mammoth to flush the toilets. We should be using, we could be using gray water. Other amendments about waste diversion. An issue that's out there is organic waste collection and diversion. A lot of our solid waste at this point that still goes to the landfill is organic in nature and could be diverted. And some improved allocations for open space so that we acknowledge that we need room for recycling, trash, recycling, organics, and hazardous waste collection. So you can see there's a lot of kind of tinkering and tightening up going on across the West Hollywood specific code landscape. A couple more things. Looking at passive features, daylighting, natural ventilation, acknowledging we have a pretty great climate where the prevailing winds are. There is topography in the city, so identifying ways to encourage those sort of fundamentals of green design. Giving people alternatives or trade-offs for achieving net zero once you get to mid-rise or high-rise residential and commercial buildings. It just gets increasingly difficult to get to net zero once you get above, say, 3 floors in most buildings. We had a subconsultant DNVGL look at a number of prototypical buildings, and it became quite clear that after 3 stories in height, you just run out of roof area for the solar panels to offset the energy use in the building, no matter how efficient the building is. At least that's with current technology. And then I mentioned this earlier, but enhanced inspection and verification process. So a real desire to have some of the green items added to the punch list or the inspection card, so that there's field verification of what's in the plans. Some of these things can be in the area of energy with what's called HERS raters, home energy rating system raters, or engineers, commissioning agents. But there's a number of things that could probably be handled by the building inspectors themselves. We just need to kind of look at integrating the green things into the inspection system even more strongly than has been done in the past.
Thanks, Walker. That concludes our presentation.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Councilmember Horvath?
Thank you, Mayor. So am I clear in my understanding that you're using state policy as a base and then tailoring to meet local needs and objectives based on the urban environment, the context
Yes.
in different neighborhoods?
Yes, and also based on the input we receive from the stakeholders.
And so you're not proceeding with third-party verification?
That wasn't supported. Yeah, that was,
Okay.
It wasn't seen as local or contextual enough.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Meister?
You have in the report that, and you talked about it, that solar is not as viable an option with buildings 4 stories or higher. But isn't that going to be, is that going to be a requirement of the state come 2030?
It's expected to be a requirement of the state by 2030. It's in the long-range energy plan and identified as a goal by the Energy Commission. It's understood we're moving in that direction, and so we're sort of anticipating it and preparing for it, but there's 3 code cycles between now and then, so it's not for sure that that's what's going to happen in 2030.
But the state thinks it's possible right now, so we shouldn't take it off our possibility.
No, I think it's in there as a policy goal. What appears to be happening is that as these policy goals actually turn into policy, like in the 2019 Title 24 Part 6, the Energy Code, and people are applying them to actual buildings, they're starting to see that there's constraints. So I don't know I truly don't know what that's going to mean in 2030 when you start asking a 10-story hotel to achieve net zero energy on site. What I think may happen is that there'll be more opportunities for sharing between sites, potentially in the city, so that a building that's struggling could avail itself of space on a building that has extra space, or potentially even doing things off-site that you could, purchase solar panel space on an installation, out in Mojave or something. But that all remains to be determined.
Okay, and then you talk about limited percolation capacity. Have you thought about subterranean garages not going from lot line to lot line?
There was a lot of discussion about subterranean garages and ways to design them so that there wouldn't be so much water that needs to be pumped out of them. It gets outside of my expertise. I'm not a structural engineer. But this particular issue of the volume of water that leaves West Hollywood just from these subterranean garage pumps certainly came up. And several of the architects said, well, they're design solutions. I don't know what the cost implications are of those solutions.
Okay, and just one last question. You talk about the program should not take away incentives for common and open spaces in new development, and that public spaces should be what integrates the green features. There's a difference between open space and green space, so why can we consider, or have you considered that instead of saying open space, that we say green space?
I think it's a great idea. What do you think, Robin?
Yeah, and I apologize if that was confusing. We heard a lot about making sure that we sort of emphasize or encourage like courtyard designs for vegetation and green space. And so I think that's a valid point, and we'll make sure that the proposed language has that in there.
Yeah, because maybe we shouldn't be allowing that shift from the public space, which could be green space, to
private space. You have that minimum requirement on private space, but we've allowed it to go larger, and maybe we shouldn't be doing that, and instead be requiring that the open space be green space.
Yep, okay,
Yeah.
I'm told we can look at that. I'll just I'll share just an interesting tidbit that came out, which is a sort of a recognition of the courtyard building prototype in West Hollywood and sort of how great it is, and even how great it is from a green standpoint, that there's natural daylight, there's natural ventilation, there is green space in the center, and so there, sort of sparked a lot of discussion of, again, this sort of, what could be the contemporary manifestation of this historic courtyard prototype, and linking it into some of these green goals for stormwater management, green space, energy efficiency. So I think we all found that quite inspiring.
I think they're ready to move it, but yeah.
Two quick comments, and I think we went through them, but one is, I think the headline for me is that this is really very much on its way, and as much as we can tie the strategy to the regular update of the California Building Code, that local amendments would automatically be updated. We certainly have enough oversight and local control that if we're updating ourselves out of possibility, we would hear about it, and we could pull it back to the California Building Code if we got to that place where technology did not exceed the building code, as perhaps you're discussing in three-story and taller buildings. And also, I think the one thing that I discussed already with Robin was I'm very interested in daylighting and in getting light, natural light, as deep into buildings as possible, and I'm certain that's a big part of this, but I think it's also leads to sort of better buildings overall, and I know that our courtyard housing 15 years ago, one of the bigger complaints was that it took an empty inside and it made a big full outside, and so you would have these big buildings that were thick on the outside and empty in the middle, instead of maybe lower and flatter. But I think those are the kinds of trade-offs we have to consider if we're looking at things like where the rain falls and where the light shines and where the air goes. And though it may mean that buildings are thicker on the outside, but then there is green space in the middle and a courtyard that is part of the sort of long history of design here in our city. So thank you very much. I'm as I said many times, I championed this in January of 2015, and I'm just really happy that we're keeping up with technology, and technology is keeping up with us. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Lauren?
Yeah, and I'll just finish with, for me, the most compelling paragraph was where you talk about local characteristics, how WeHo's distinctive physical features allow for designs that can make use of natural ventilation, solar energy, daylighting, et cetera. And like my colleague, I would like to see how we can make sure that that design reflects that. I would suggest also that, adopting the Cal Green, making sure that we keep up with all of that, but also maybe focusing on certain things that are important to us. So, for example, water and the gray water. I've been asked about gray water. I never know what to say. Do we have it? Don't we have it? Are we ever going to have it? So I think that's a really good thing for us to have. And green space, as I said, green space as opposed to open space, because there's a difference. Mm-hmm. And then also looking at the city's public spaces and greening our own public spaces and making sure that our properties are green as well. And then regarding the city inspections and verification process, I've talked to staff about that before, and I'm really glad to see that we're going to move in the direction of having a very specific checklist, because I don't know how we've been checking now. And the fact that there are bonuses given for these points, we have to make sure that builders are using the specific things. What is it? Flag ash
Fly ash.
Fly,
Yes,
whatever it is,
that one-
ash and concrete
comes
and
up a lot, yeah.
engineered wood things, studs and all of that. And then just to make sure, I'm not a builder, as you can tell, and just to make sure that we have the internal training for our inspectors. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? It's been moved by Horvath, seconded by D'Amico to receive the report. All those in favor indicate with an aye. There we go. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, staff. All right. That moves us to item number 5A, Transportation Commission Review of Relevant Environmental Documents. This is introduced by Councilmember Meister.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm happy to just give a very brief summary of what this item is and what it isn't. So basically the way I envision this is that we have a transportation commission, and we do have EIRs that happen that have a specific section called transportation and circulation, and that our transportation commission should have in its purview that they can review that section. And what I also envisioned is that what happens is when the draft environmental impact report comes out, that section is, that transportation commissioners are notified, and that section is basically looked at by them. And they have a 45-day review period. Everyone, the public, has a 45-day review period. So Transportation Commission meets once a month. So that does not extend any of the timelines for the EIR process. All it does is gives the Transportation Commission the opportunity to review and discuss at one of their meetings any comments or concerns that they have about the environmental impact report in relation just very specifically to the transportation and circulation department section, and then it would also give the public an opportunity to go to the meeting and be able to ask their questions or make give their input as well. And so I think that anything that allows our commissioners to participate in the process and expand our public, the ability for our public to give input and transparency is worth our doing. And just as a side note, that apparently the Transportation Commission used to do this. I don't know when it stopped, but we have some really great people on our Transportation Commission, and I've heard from several of them who thought that this would be a really good idea for us to be able to give them that, that responsibility and that purview.
I want to ask, by participation, does that mean comment as opposed to any land use decision making?
No, they would not have any decision-making ability. It's still the Planning Commission.
So it's just comment.
It's the commenting on the transportation section of an environmental impact report. And those comments would go to the EIR company. And just like the public, those comments would also go to the Planning Commission in the staff report.
Any other questions for Councilmember Meister before we go to the public? Okay, Dan Wenzel and Keith Kaplan are our two speakers.
Good evening. I am here to speak in favor of this motion. I am not speaking on behalf of the Commission as a whole, although I've had the privilege and honor of chairing the Transportation Commission over the past year. What I do want to speak about is just how great this Commission is. The Commission is collegial, intelligent. We have, it's very knowledgeable, and I guarantee that if you give the Commission the purview to make comments, the comments will be helpful and constructive, and will help out in the process if you feel that this is helpful to the EIR process. And thank you, Commissioner, thank you, Councilwoman Horvath, who used to be chair of the Commission by appointment. But I also want to use this moment to please ask the public to consider attending a commission or an advisory board and meet the people who give of their time and really like of themselves and really study the nitty-gritty issues that help this city function. It's been an honor and a privilege, and it also, I don't think that this will be a huge demand based on the staff report with SB 743. I don't think this is going to burden the commission with lots of extra activity. So I hope you will give it some consideration and thought, and I know that we will give anything coming to our commission consideration and thought. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Keith Kaplan.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Duran and council members. I'm here tonight speaking on behalf of the West Hollywood Chamber. And really we're here simply because we haven't had the opportunity to really understand in depth what this proposal is about. It seems that it could have the potential to add an unnecessary step to ER and CEQA review, which could add further to the long delays that developers can face when trying to move projects forward in West Hollywood. We're also concerned about the broad authority that it confers upon the Transportation Commission by including both the review of scope and adequacy and the potential for proposal of mitigations. It has a potential for confusion as well as conflict with the Planning Commission, who does stand as the review authority for the EIRs. The Chamber's only learned of this coming on tonight's agenda very recently, and we really haven't had the opportunity to vet it with the Chamber or our business community. So we're simply requesting a delay to allow time for us to learn more, to have these conversations with our business community, and to come back to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keith, how 30 days or 60
30 days?
30 days? Thanks.
Okay, that's it for the comments from the public. Any council member wish to comment? I do, but you want to go first, John? Okay.
Yeah, I'm actually intrigued to know what the chamber's response would be. I mean, I can imagine, and I hope that you will in the next 30 days if we decide to do that. I do think that it has been the case that transportation, circulation questions are coming up more and more in the face of all these different transit options, including potentially the Chamber's taking a position that we hope you will vet in time about the Metro, so we can take our position on that and sort of have a full and complete 2019 onward vision from the Chamber's point of view. From my point of view, I think it's an excellent idea. These are our commissioners. They're really interested in the circulation in our city. It does have, it seems, the likelihood that during the open comment period, a meeting would happen and those comments would just trail directly to the preparer of the EIR. I can't see that it would slow it down as long as the meeting is scheduled in those 45 days, because the EIR has to accept comments during those 45 days. So I'm in support of this unless someone from some angle brings up a point of view that I think would make clear that having comments from our transit and circulation professionals would provide some sort of block towards getting this through the process at the pace that it should. So I hope you will take it to your board, your policy board, and I hope we will have it back on an agenda if we don't decide tonight within a couple of meetings.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to vote no on the item, and I remember when this issue came up, the issue was the Chamber was lobbying us to cut some of the red tape, that a lot of small businesses were being adversely impacted by red tape. The large developers and the large businesses, they can afford delays, they can afford the lobbyists, they can afford the attorneys and the consultants, but it's the small businesses who really suffer when we add additional red tape. I think our transportation commissioners are great. Brian Pendleton was mine for years, Misty Cooper has been mine for years. I wouldn't call either of them a transportation professional. They're citizen activists, the people from the community who serve on the Transportation Commission. I actually think the professionals are within the EIR consultants that are used on large projects, and our own transportation and transit staff are the actual professionals that I think we should rely on. So I don't see any reason to add an additional level of red tape. If we end up, a majority does end up going that way, I would ask respectfully that we consider exempting housing, because housing is such an important thing. Or if we're going to exempt anything under maybe 40 housing units from review. And same with commercial, that we put a limit, maybe projects over 20,000 square feet. But generally, I don't support adding red tape because I think it has an adverse impact on small businesses and doesn't really impact the larger ones. Larger ones can bear the burden. It's not so much the time, it's the time of the professionals that they have to pay to now attend not only the Historic Preservation Commission, but also the Planning Commission, and now the Transportation Commission. And for a smaller home property owner or a small business, that's just a lot of layers of government to get through to just try to get something started and open. So for all those reasons, I will vote no tonight. Councilmember Horvath?
Thank you, Mayor. I still would like to give the Chamber and its members the opportunity to consider this item and review it, to have more substantive comments. So if the council's willing to go that way, that's what the motion I would like to make. So I will do that, and we'll see if there's a second. But I also, I just want to get really clear for me, because there's reference in this report to how Historic Preservation Commission reviews things, but the Historic Preservation Commission reviews for scope and adequacy of what was studied. It does not review for the substance. That piece of it is left to the Planning Commission, and I just want to make sure that I'm clear as to whether we're asking Transportation Commission to offer substantive review or to as the Historic Preservation Commission does, review for scope and adequacy of what was studied, because I think those are two different things and create two different outcomes. And because the DEIR has to be considered in that 45-day time period, I'm not concerned about time delay because it legally cannot be delayed past that period of time. But I do think that I don't want to create the false expectation in the community, if this were to go to transportation, that a conversation happening at Transportation Commission is the place where they are going to be dealing with traffic and parking impacts, because that is the purview of the Planning Commission. So I just, as the community is thinking, as we're thinking, those are some of the thoughts that I have that I would like to see part of the discussion should it come back to us in 30 days.
And your motion was to continue for 30 days, give the chamber an opportunity to weigh in, right? Okay, I seconded that. Okay, Councilmember Meister and then Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I'm okay with delaying this for 30 days. We haven't had it for a number of years, so 30 days is not going to make or break us. To respond to Mayor Duran's concerns, an EIR is typically on a large project. It wouldn't happen with a small project or smaller residential projects or even small businesses. Usually that would be a mitigated negative declaration or a negative declaration, and so you wouldn't see an environmental impact report in those cases. Regarding Councilmember Horvath's concerns, this would be regarding the substance of the draft environmental impact report, and so that's what it would be limited to. I think also one of the benefits is that by having those comments and questions at the Transportation Commission, it is very technical, and there are a lot of questions, and I think it would just really help to educate our community, those who are interested, because it would be focused on that, whereas once it gets to Planning Commission, we don't have the benefit of that focus and being able to answer the community's questions. And I think that the Transportation Commission would be the appropriate venue to have that discussion of comments regarding the transportation portion of the environmental impact report.
Okay, Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
I think I remember this, and maybe this could be made clear when this comes back, because it seems it would as we are discussing this. I think that 600 trips is the threshold for a transportation study. I don't even know if it's called a transportation study. A traffic study, that's what it's called. A traffic study. So I think it's 600 trips, and that might not be the right number. That might not trigger an environmental impact report section on traffic and circulation, but I agree with my colleague that I think it only belongs for larger, much of the larger projects that have transportation and circulation studies in the EIR, and I think that's the intent of this, but it might be clear to sort of explain what would not be included, residential projects on our side streets, smaller retail projects of, say, 10,000 square feet or less. I mean, I think the most recent project that didn't trigger a study, I'm trying to think of which it was, on Sunset Boulevard, I think was kind of a surprise that there were not more than 600 trips, and so a traffic study wasn't required. So in that way, I think there's little likelihood that this would slow a project down. But returning to the email of the day from the chamber, which is that they asked us to let them work their magic internally, and I think they should, and then perhaps this will be back to us in 30 days or so. So thank you.
Yeah, and I'll work with Andy to clarify those things when we bring it back.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded to continue for 30 days in order to give the chamber an opportunity to weigh in. All those. Oh,
one thing, maybe what you could do with Andy is say which of in the last 2 years would have been sent to the Transportation Commission, and then we would have a sense whether it's 2 or 20 things. Thank you.
Motion passes 3-1 with Mayor voting no. All right. Thank you. That concludes all of that. Any additional public speakers, Yvonne? No? Any additional? Oh, there is. All right. Joseph Chan? Is there a Joseph Chan present? No Joseph Chan. All right. Any additional council member comments? Councilmember Horvath?
Mayor, I just want to thank you for the comments that you made earlier tonight and the way that you handled what was happening in the council chambers and how deeply offensive comments were shouted at a very dear and beloved member of our community. And to James Wen, who I believe is still here, I want to thank you for the testimony that you gave, which was graceful and powerful and so meaningful. Your words were meaningful. How you handled that situation was incredible, and I want you to know that you are held with love in this community. And I'm sorry you had that experience, and I'm grateful to our mayor for speaking up for you, and know that we are all here for you and support you.
James, we all got your back. Got your back. We got your back. All right. Thank you. We are adjourned until August 20th.